During the first Intifada, many Palestinian workers went on strike as a way of economically crippling the Zionist state of Israel. Shopkeepers refused to open their stores in occupied Palestine. What all of these incidents have in common is workers yielding their power to demand and exercise their right to self-determination.
What union are you in?
I am in IFPTE Local 21. I work for the city of San Francisco.
So, why are you here today, first of all, just, in terms of why are you here in support of Palestinians?
First, I'm Palestinian myself. I'm also actually Jewish too. My family have experienced all kinds of oppression from all sides of this, from all parts of the tragedy that is now Palestine and Israel. My grandmother actually moved to Palestine as a Jewish immigrant, and all her family died in the Holocaust. And I myself, the other side of my family is all Palestinian. And all of them essentially suffered through all the parts of the conflict. My grandparents, all of them were ethnically cleansed from 1948 Palestine, which is now Israel. And also in 1967, my family also was essentially forced to live through the hell of occupation. And right now my family actually are under bombing in Gaza. My aunt and her children are all living in Khan Yunis. They were in Gaza City. Their houses are destroyed, and now they're basically Khan Yunis being bombed, and we lost contact with them. I live all aspects of the tragedy that this is. So this is very important to me, very personal, but also it's also part of us being workers. We need to show solidarity to all oppressed people around the world, and in this case, it's my people.
And do you feel that there's a particular role that workers can play or unions can play in fighting this?
Yes, and as you can see, our political institutions have failed to take any position that is at all ethical in the time where we are literally experiencing and witnessing a genocide. Who is out there in the street? It's not the politicians, it's the workers. And organized labor is the only way we can restore democracy to this country, because democracy as it is, through electoralism, has not worked to deliver any moral legitimacy to the system that we live in. Look at what we're doing. Biden is not standing up. He's giving weapons and raining death on civilians and murdering children, which is, again, I advise everybody to read about why this is a genocide. This is a very clear-cut genocide. So unions are the ones who are doing it. We're trying to restore democracy. It is hard right now. We're starting at the very bottom, but this is what we need to do. We need to organize, we need to unionize, and we need to restore democracy at the workplace so that we can restore democracy at the nation level.
And lastly, do you think there are any types of actions that workers can take that overcome the fact that the governments and the powers that be are not listening and will continue to support this genocide?
Yes, first unionize, organize, speak out at your union, organize your union fellows, demand more from your union, and ask them to demand more from presidency. And the other thing is, do not endorse any politician that does not stand with basic human rights and basically does not stand against genocide. We have, that's the first action. The second action is increase militancy, increase the union density, and talk to your fellows about what actions you can take to show that we are serious about us wanting to stop this horrific humanitarian crisis and genocide that is happening.
Do you think any kinds of work actions and strikes are a possibility? Would it be effective?
I think that depends on the situation, but I wholeheartedly support any striker. I haven't really done many strikes, to be honest, but I do encourage people to think about it, think if it's doable, and if they think that that can achieve political ends, I do think that people should do strikes, for sure. I think that ultimately workers have to observe that essentially, I think in general, we have to all understand, people have like different ways they form their opinions, right? But ultimately, everybody, I hope, can understand that their material interest is what really drives most of their essentially happiness and comfort, and their ability to support their family and community. So I'm hoping that for right now, for both Israeli and Palestinian workers, and I do know that from the Palestinian worker side, it's much less like ability for them to do much because Israel is the kind of the hegemon in that region. But I hope that the Israeli workers and workers overall realize that their interests are more with their fellow workers against international capitalism than it is with essentially like other organizing principles such as ethnicity and religion, which again and again we know fail to provide workers with a good livelihood, and it's just exploited by the capitalists to essentially increase hegemony and increase worker exploitation in the long run. So I do call on all workers to recognize that and essentially like know that they have more in common with other workers than they have with their co-ethnic capitalist and imperialist classes.
What I see is a situation where if workers don't speak out, we're the ones who make the country run. So I think we're in a position where we can say, like, if we don't get what we're asking for, which is not only a ceasefire, but the end of an occupation and the end of an apartheid or a fundamentally unequal state where Palestinian people don't have basic human rights, then we're kind of complicit in it. And so we're here as workers to speak out against what our government is doing.
Mass mobilizations play a really important role. During the war against Vietnam, Americans were taken to the streets. That helped to play a role to make it in making it really difficult for the U.S. to continue its illegal and criminal occupation of Vietnam. We want to make it as difficult as possible for our government to be complicit in the oppression of Palestinians. And so as working class people, we're taken to the streets in this labor rally, which is part of building a mass and a democratic movement for Palestine. And we think we need to take it beyond marches as well. And in the near future, organize labor actions such as strikes in solidarity with Palestine.
Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Resistance is justified!